Dave suggested Shirley coming today, and you were with us, I think, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I can't remember. It might be longer. Yeah, but I forget these things. I love what you said, the word in the title of your bio. It says Shirley Raines Encourager. I'm going to make a little card that I give to people. I think that is such a wonderful thought for somebody that's a leader. Dr. Shirley Raines is a speaker and author, acclaimed for the stories she tells about leadership lessons. And I can read a lot of this because we're a little ahead of time. Okay? Learn from an unusual journey. Her journey is the unlikely story of a preschool teacher who became the first woman's president of the University of Memphis, serving for 12 years. Her unlikely journey of growing up on a cotton farm in West Tennessee, watching airplanes flying over and dreaming of traveling the world. Little did she know one day she would speak to teachers on the dirt floor in Quito, Ecuador, represent an education association at the UN, and speak at Harvard for 5 summers on the faculty of the Institute for New Presidents and Chancellors. She talks about she's always been an encourager and encourages women to accept leadership challenges, encourages young people to stretch beyond their present circumstances, and encourages citizens to grapple with the great issues of society. She's written 18 books, 15 for teachers, 2 for children, and 1 for leaders. And her encourager voice is that of a learner, learning the lessons of leadership and helping others seize the opportunities that their own leadership journeys provide. So I'm really excited that you're here with us today, Shirley. And if you want, either hold it or if you can pin it or whatever works.
Do you need me to use the wireless?
Yeah, because the people on Zoom can hear it.
Okay. Well, good morning. I just live up the hill. I live on Dansworth Lane. So, some of you know me from various other places, church, Rhone State, Emory Valley Center, all those kinds of things. Arboretum, yes, the Arboretum. So thank you. Well, in my book, An Uncommon Journey, I tell the story. It's a combination of memoir and leadership lessons. So what we learn along the way. And of course, growing up on a farm in West Tennessee, I have to give a lot of credit to my mom and dad. We started as sharecroppers. My dad and mother didn't have much, and my dad worked very hard so that he could buy his own farm. And in 1968, he bought his own farm. And so that was the joy of his life for the rest of his life. But as you might imagine, working on a sharecropper's farm, we worked hard. And even after he had his own farm, we worked hard as well. But I think that work ethic served me well and served my brothers well. But my mother also was quite an inspiration. She was the farmer's wife, but she also always had another job. And she said she worked so they could keep the farm. But anyway, it was that kind of life. She worked in a factory, and then she worked in a lawyer's office where she learned to close properties. She was, okay, sorry. Okay, I want to be on camera and heard. All right. So my mother started working in this lawyer's office and eventually started the first real estate firm in Crockett County, which is a tiny little county in West Tennessee. But she was adamant that her daughter, and I'm the oldest, and her 2 sons should get a good education, of course. And she was quite, I'm sure if mother had lived in my era, that she would have been a very good lawyer, certainly a good university president, and many other things along the way. So I learned this encouraging role and leadership role from my mother mostly. She believed in involving us in everything in the church. In my book, I talk about how if you're in a small church in West Tennessee, you work alongside the leaders. You know, there aren't enough people. And so they have to encourage all the teenagers and all of the young people to participate, or you don't get anything done. There are not enough people. So we learned our leadership roles and learned to speak up and learned to look at budgets, James Frank, all because we were asked to be responsible from a very young age. So I give a lot of credit to those early years. But I want to tell you what I believe are the keys to unlocking leadership. That was a great quote, Tony, that you had on the screen. The first is this key, and this key I call the key of trust and integrity. My mother and father were certainly people who could be trusted, but I was introduced to a lot of people in community organizations and in my church and in my school where they could be trusted. They were people of trust and integrity. And I dare say that you could each be given the key to the city of Oak Ridge for what you have done in your life, because leaders have that trust and integrity. Their organizations trust them, trust Tony to be in charge. There is a sense of integrity that the finances of Rome State, James Frank, are going to be handled well. We have trust and integrity, and we're respected as leaders. You are respected as leaders. Without this, none of the other keys work. But this is the old-fashioned key that unlocks what would be a heavy door of leadership. Unless you possess it or can be given it, it's hard to be a leader. Now, these keys are the keys I use every day. These keys are the keys that actually they're the keys to my car, and they're the keys to my house. And there's another little key on here as well. These keys represent the keys I use every day. There's my car key. What is it that drives you? If you're a leader, you have to have drive, skills, knowledge, talents, determination. You may not have all the knowledge you need or all the skills you need, but you have to be willing to acquire them. Isn't that true? Haven't you found that to be true? And of course, determination, perseverance, tenaciousness. You're determined. There are people who are determined to get things done, but to persevere in that determination and tenaciously hold on to the values of your particular organization, whether it's a school, a bank, a law office, or in your profession at the Oak Ridge National Lab. I happen to work with ORISE, and I get to meet a lot of people who work in the lab and chair a board of scientists that are looking at STEM education. And I've gotten to meet people from all over the country. And what they have is knowledge, but they continually have this thirst for learning more. After all, most of them are researchers. So it is determination, perseverance, and tenaciousness. And the last one, which I think is so important, critical even, is their abilities to work well with others. I have to pause here and tell you a story or two. When I was at the university, I hired a lot of people over the years, but at a certain level, department chairs, deans, provost, all of these people, I was involved directly with the interviews because, frankly, even with department chairs, if there aren't people who are going to be good leaders, then at the very department chair level, things can begin to fall apart. So we need leaders at all levels along the way. And there was a very well-known person who will remain anonymous, who came to our university and made the most glorious presentation, had people clapping, and he told great jokes, and we looked up his resume. He had all these wonderful publications, and I asked the person who drove him around that day, what was he like to be with? And I asked the secretaries who arranged his travel, what was he like? He was a horse's. And guess what? I turned him down because I don't care how famous you are or what kind of reputation you have. And he probably would have added to our university's reputation. And by the way, some of the people that detracted from our university's reputation, who happen to coach at Kentucky now, was already there when I got there. But nonetheless, the idea is you have to be able to work well with others. And you know this. You are in a community that cares deeply about working well with others. So the working well with others is one of those keys. So whatever drives you, whatever you value, storytelling, the Arboretum, wonderful contributions to the Blossom Center, whatever drives you to do good, whatever you value, those things are part of your trust and integrity, but these other things make it happen. So those are the keys. Now, here are some more keys. Okay, Tony, there. These are the keys that even if you have drive and have this great knowledge and ability, here are some more keys. And these, I spend most of my time when I am working with an organization for any length of time, talking about these 3 C's: communication, cooperation, and collaboration. We want people who can communicate well, and when things aren't working, are willing to take on the difficult problems of communicating about a problem, whether it's personnel, whether it's resources, whether it is attitudinal, but the abilities to communicate well. And for a leader, it may be communicating the vision of where the organization wants to be taken, wants to go, or if they don't want to go in that direction, what can be convincing to get them to move in that direction? But again, it has to start at all of the levels, from department to the organization, for me, a college, and the university. So communication is the key, but it has to be communication not just about the good things. You know, somebody called me the cheerleader for the university, and I was. But if you can't be the cheerleader and at the same time deal with what the real issues are and make sure you're communicating them well, it's not going to work. And it doesn't matter if you're a physicist at the lab or whether you are a leader at the church or whatever, it is communication. There are styles of communication that are a part of the way any organization works. I know that there are some organizations where the communication is so polite that you have to think twice about what people are really saying. Now, you can tell I'm from the South. I've been called a steel magnolia. I hope you know what that means. It means that I'm from the South, but there is a line you will not cross. And those are the things that it means that you can communicate what is expected, but do it in a way that people really receive the communication. It's not communication if they don't receive it. I will tell you a story about my provost, who was a mathematician. And Ralph said, well, I'm going to send out an email to everybody to be at this place at a certain time. So he sent out the email once to about 2,500 employees, 2,300 employees, once. How many people do you think showed up? about as much as in this room. And I said, Ralph, you're supposed to be getting these people here, and you only, first of all, he scheduled it at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, so he assumed that by his title, he had authority and that people would respond. So title means something, but they have to know why they're coming and what difference it makes for them to attend. There are some organizations, my brother's organization, where he owns a company, you better be there if you're an employee or you're in deep trouble. Well, it's not the way for most of us in our churches and our civic organizations, or even in our families, that communication, what I'm dealing with, it's very clear. We know we've been heard. And there are lots of people who do communication workshops along the way. And then cooperation. There's lip service to cooperation, but we know when there's a deed to be done, like the Blossom Center, if we're cooperating with each other, we get it done much more quickly, right? We do it together, and it makes the difference. And the cooperation that we know will keep people coming back. If they don't feel that they're alone in doing this, there's real cooperation. There's a sense of community that develops from cooperation. Now, I think collaboration is one of the most misunderstood of these 3 C's. You certainly do have to cooperate to collaborate, but if you're bringing together 2 different entities for a task, for instance, Ellen, I'm going to use our example. When we were working on building the new preschool for Oak Ridge, we had to bring together the city council and all its appointees, from the city manager and Ellen and many other people, and the school district, the superintendent, and those, they had the interest of the same thing, but they had to come together and bring their different perspectives to work it out to get this wonderful project done. So that is collaboration, where the interest of the different entities come together to make something new happen. Let me give you an example from St. Jude. Since I'm from Memphis, you know that St. Jude is a very important entity in the world, but it is a very important entity in Memphis in particular, because that's where Danny Thomas started St. Jude, and no child pays for anything, including travel there or lodging or anything, to be served by St. Jude, but it takes a lot of money. There is another hospital that serves children in Memphis called Le Bonheur Hospital, and St. Jude is focused on cancer. Le Bonheur is focused on all those other childhood diseases and services for children. The city is often divided into where should we put our emphasis? St. Jude, which has a world-renowned reputation, or should we put our emphasis and our money as a donor into Le Bonheur that's serving all the other childhood entities? Finally, after many years, the leaders at Le Bonheur and St. Jude decided to come together, because many of the childhood cancer diseases, the children also have other issues that are involved in their health. And the collaboration has been wonderful. Not only are more discoveries happening, but more donors are giving to both entities. That's true collaboration, where the interest of 2 groups come together around something new. And I'll tell you another quick one, and that was, I inherited some administrators when I came to the university, and I watched them as they communicated with each other, and I had a director of IT and a business and finance person and they didn't speak to each other in the hallway. Now, I know that never happens at Oak Ridge National Lab, but the reality is there are people who can work in the same organization and they don't too much care for each other. And I brought those two, this happened to be men, in and said, this won't work. I'm a preschool teacher. I can tell you, you have to be able to play in the sandbox together because this organization is one. And we're about to negotiate a huge new IT contract, and the business and finance people are in charge of that. And you two need to get together. And I'm leaving the room and I'll be back in an hour and you tell me how you're going to work together. Now that sounds like a preschool teacher because it was. It is saying what has to be said at the right time. Now it was a forced collaboration. It was not St. Jude and Le Bonheur coming together because they recognized the need of the child. But the leader sometimes has to say, you'll not only cooperate, you're going to collaborate. The two of you have to work together or we cannot be successful here. So these are the keys: communication, collaboration, and cooperation. Now there's another key. Let me insert this. I forgot that I put this in. In communication, I should have said this back on communication. So go back to communication in your mind. But this is a quote from William Arthur Ward. Flatter me, and I may not believe you. Criticize me, and I may not like you. Ignore me, and I may not forgive you. Encourage me, and I will not forget you. And I added the last part, and I will go the distance with you. Encourage me, and I will go the distance with you. Next. So let me also just say for all you men, do you know who Estee Lauder is? Okay, I'm glad, or else you should go ask your wives. But we are all inspired by quotes, like the William Arthur Ward quote inspires me. And it inspires me in that whole part of communication, collaboration, and cooperation. But here's what Estee Lauder said: I did not get where I am by thinking about it or dreaming about it. I got where I am by doing it. Now, I have a sense that at the university, we like to admire problems. You know, we're scientists and researchers are supposed to admire problems. They fall in love with the problem they want to study. But sometimes we get stuck in the problem we're admiring rather than going on and solving it. I mean, COVID taught us that. There was this great body of information about vaccines, and it became true that we had to get on with it, that we had to actually do it. So we can get stuck in admiring the problem. We in Oak Ridge can study things forever. Don't tell me you haven't, Kelly and Ellen. We can study things forever, but sometimes we have to get on with it and do it regardless of whether we have all the answers. We have to have that next sense. Okay, next, please, Tony. Now, this is from Adam. Adam was a student in the University of Memphis, assigned to the president's office. He came in, and the first day he came in, he had holes in the back of his jeans, so I saw his underwear and all these kinds of things. And I had to say, Adam, you know, it's okay for you to wear that kind of stuff outside of our office, but sometimes we're asking donors for millions of dollars, and I don't want them being greeted at the front door by someone with his underwear showing. So it wasn't the easiest conversation for Adam. Adam was an art major, by the way. And, but Adam stayed with us for 4 years. Now, he still wore holy pants on campus, but he didn't wear them in our office. But that wasn't the most that he did. He did anything he was asked to do. At first, he was a grumbler. You'd tell him, oh, we need you to deliver this to Professor so-and-so's office. And there was this kind of response. You may get that from your teenage grandchildren sometimes. Anyway, Adam, at the end of 4 years, was graduating. And Adam, I said, we're going to have a pizza party for you and bring you all kinds of gift certificates that you can use for when you graduate. He said, no, I have a present for you. And he brought in a framed copy of this quote. Happiness is doing with a smile what you have to do anyway. I said, Adam, who said that? He said, anonymous. It was on one of the calendars that was on his desk, and it said anonymous. But that's what Adam became. Someone who did things and was happy doing them. Sometimes that's what leadership is. There are objectionable things. I did not like testifying before the legislature. I would be glad to meet them all individually, but I hated testifying before the legislature. But you have to do it. So there is that. Next. Now, if you noticed carefully on my other keys, there was another little key. And I call this key the key of inspiration. Frankly, I haven't a clue what this key is to or what it opens. I have no idea why we have this. I found it in the junk drawer at my house. Don't tell me you don't have one where all those keys are. And I dare you to say you know exactly which key goes to which thing. But I call this little key my key of inspiration. There are going to be days as a leader, as the owner of your own insurance business, Ruby, there are going to be days that you do not know why you do your job. And in reality, this key, it's because you stay inspired. It may be because of your religious beliefs, because of your family values, or it may be because you just love some part of life that says you have to keep going. So I don't know which keys you possess. I think you possess all of them. You possess the key of trust and integrity. You possess the key of drive. You possess the keys of communication, cooperation, and collaboration. But to keep on going, please stay inspired. Thank you. I will. While they're thinking of their questions, here's my book, which is at the Farrell shop. And here are the two children's books, one on birds and one on butterflies. Okay, Ellen. Yes.
Please repeat the question.
Okay. She was interested in the Harvard Institute for New Presidents and Chancellors. And I was able in my last 5 years to be a speaker there and invited back. I thought the best part was that I was invited back after the first year, you know. But yes, people come literally from all over the world to be trained together, and you do create a kind of bond with other presidents and chancellors, and they're all new and they're trying to figure out what to do first. We spend a lot of time on selection of your leadership council or staff, or who your assistant's going to be, that kind of thing. And there were people who specialized in fundraising and so forth. Mine was always in the relationship area.
Are these ideas in your?
Yes. Yes, they are.
One more question. if anyone has.
What was that question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are these ideas in my book, An Uncommon Journey, Leadership Lessons from a Preschool Teacher Who Became a University President? And the answer is yes.
Anybody on Zoom have a question?
Lucky, and then Emily.
I'll probably do that though after, but that would probably be a couple minutes. I'm sure you can stay around.
Oh, yes, I'll be glad to stay around. Emily?
Share a little bit about what has happened with your butterflies and birds books.
Yes, yes, what has happened to my birds and butterflies books at the Arboretum? Well, I wrote these two books, Birds and Butterflies, and they came out. And the Arboretum was looking for something to do with children and families and to get people more involved. They had a wonderful Butterflies Festival. And so first, after the Butterflies Festival, we set up a nature walk, which involved photographs from all the butterflies that are featured in this book. And it was about the life cycle of the butterflies. And then next, they wanted to do a nature walk that involved birds. And so they featured the bird book. And with the bird book, the beautiful photographs that are in here. The photographs are done not by me, but by Kurt Hart. And so all across the hillside on the Nature Walk Trail are large, almost billboard sizes of these photographs with information about each bird. So go and walk that trail. In fact, many adults like to walk it as much as the children.
Thank you, Shirley.
You're welcome.
Thanks, because now I have 2 more books to buy. Because we have a lot of birdies at our house, right? Like you. And that was great. Thank you for being here.